Okay, hello, this is an updated tutorial on how to use the Devils Dynamic Controller. As long as you reference it in the devil.ma file, you should be able to use the script by going to the scripts menu and then Devils Dynamics, and you should get a box up like this. Don't worry about the error because that's not going to change it's not going to alter the way that the controller works. A few new things are I've added in toggles so that you can toggle between certain things being turned on. I've also added display feature so you can change the display of the character because it's much easier being able to do it through here. I've got rid of the conserve because I didn't think we really needed to use that too much. Might end up getting rid of the weight depending on how much it gets used, but at the moment it's still in there. Basically, if I turn the hair and the tail on, and basically, so if I play that back, you can see that dynamics are turned on. What the smoothness does is, if it's the less smooth, the more of a spring. It's a bit stiffer, whereas the higher it is, the less stiff it is. So now that I've made that really low, it should spring. Yeah, it springs back quite quickly, and whereas the other one continues to go. I'll put that back to 2, and that's the same for all of them. For all the smoothness, it does the same thing. And then the weight, if you turn this down to 0, the effect you'll get is that it just doesn't move. So it's kind of, and then if you put it up to 1, it's a lot more responsive. Well, a bit more responsive. Then you've got the additional per particle weighting. So this is for the actual individual points that control the soft body. So if I put this up and set the weighting, the top bits don't move around as much. So if I put this back down, you'll see they'll move around more. So and they're continuing to move. Default weighting is quite good values, so I would only use this if you need to. And that's the same for all of, you've got the hair spike, so it's for both at the same time, and then the front, which is this section here, and then obviously the tail. You've also got, I'm going to go to this first, so then you've got the setting the start time of the actual scene. So basically what you'd want to do, you wouldn't want the hair and the tail to start like this on frame 1, so if you set the start time to say -25, set start frame, and then if you play it until you're happy with the resting point, and then set initial state. And you need to highlight them, so you highlight them, then set initial state. So now the start frame, if I put this back to 1, you can see the start frame is actually on that point that we chose. So I'm just going to quickly do a bit of movement. So you have him moving at the moment. Basically, now for the last bit, which is the particle disk caching. It's not 100% up and running. It does work, but the bake simulation isn't working 100% at the moment, so I'd leave that alone. But if you set the start time, so 1 and then end time's 100, and then choose whatever you want to call it. So call this new test, and then click on create PDC. It's going to go through all the frames, and now if I turn that on, I should be able to scrub through the actual animation, so I won't get any strange deforming. But the only thing to bear in mind is, so now that you've got the now you've got it caching, if I pull this out here and I scrub through it, you'll see that it's not updated. So you'd need to make sure to create a new, so if you wanted to move it along to here, you need to make sure that you either create a new particle disk cache, or, well, it's best to do that. So now that I do that, I'll put this back to the beginning. Now you should see that it's updated for you. So, and the reason why I've put the name is so that you can name it and then you can find it and you can delete it, because the more that the longer the scene, the bigger the file that gets. So I'll find you it 1 second. So if you go to the scene folder, so basically as long as you set a project and then you go to the scene folder, there'll be a particles folder, and if you go in there, your latest particle disk cache will be in there. So you can either delete it through here. See, it's only 100 frames, so it's already 1.72 meg, and if you keep on redoing it, it'll add up. So you want to keep an eye out on that. And basically that's just quite helpful, because it means you can get quicker playback. And then what you can do is you can have the proxy overlay on, so you've got the dynamics going. Make sure not to key that. Basically what happened was I keyed everything, so yeah. Now if you've got the proxy overlay and you've got the cached particles, you can now animate these on top of it. So it will add to the additional. At the moment, what just happened was that it actually did a particle disk cache for all of these. What will happen is that you'll choose the particle disk cache and then set the time, and then you'll be able to do it. So you don't have to do all of them at the same time. You can just do the individual ones, just to make it a bit easier. And what Bake Simulation does is it will basically bake it out to keyframes, so that you can not use the dynamics at all. You can just switch it off and use the keyframes, but that will be the next update. Okay, so that's basically it. Thank you.